in Japan, the story is somewhat similar to Germany. There was, and to go back to, I think it was Kate, I can't remember, who said violence, right, and the use of violence, the people, the group that comes to power in Japan, the group that comes to power in Japan do so by basically bullying and intimidating and even killing people who oppose them. They come to power and they say the reason that the reason that they're sort of going to be successful is that the Japanese, they say to Japan, we want to make Japan powerful. We want to make Japan powerful, and we want to make Japan the main country of an Asian empire. We think Japan should go out and conquer other countries in Asia, and we should rule them. Now, mind you, this is but one group in Japan's history. Japan today has no interest in conquering other countries, but at this point in history, they did, and they wanted to, they wanted to conquer other countries, China being one of them, right? And I don't need to ask you this. You guys have already answered it in chat, which is to say, do we think that Japan wanted to conquer all of these countries to make them better? Do you think Japan said, I want to take over Korea and Vietnam and Singapore because I want to make them better? Obviously not. As one of you correctly said, they wanted to take the valuable goods that other countries had, Gavin put it, right? And in fact, the number one thing that Japan wanted, at this point that it could not get, as Samuel correctly said, was oil. Japan did not have oil supplies, and it needed them if it was going to fight a war. And so Japan wants to conquer territories so we can get oil, right? And other resources. And if you're not familiar with it, and some of you probably are, in what is one of the funniest and most depressing instances in modern history, Japan basically invades China because of an attack on a Japanese railroad, right? And indeed, it's in Tintin, that's right. And they framed it. It was all a lie. Japan one night went out to their railroad, basically went bang with a hammer to it, and then the next day reported that the Chinese had blown up the Japanese railroad, and it was a really big deal. And in fact, this is the photo that's meant to show you all the damage that was done to the railroad, which, like, bro, there's no damage there. Like, that literally shows nothing. Someone just went like this around a railroad track. Like, obviously nothing happened, right? No, I think it's not Tintin and the Picaros. It is the Blue Lotus, if I remember correctly. It's a classic. Not really a really beautifully written book and super racist, but is what it is. And so this is the kind of thing that we're talking about. The Japanese, who have told their people, or I should say the Japanese government, which has told their people that they are going to sort of make Japan very strong and they're going to go out and conquer other territories, they create a fake attack in Manchuria, and they invade and take over this part of China. And I don't think it's that, well, someone said that, China is very weak at this point. And Kate has a point. China is not so much weak at this point as much as China is not unified at this point, right? The Communist Party is fighting with warlords and the Kuomintang for control of China, right? There is no agreement on who's going to run China. They are fighting each other. They've been fighting each other for about 7 or 8 years at that point. And when the Japanese do this, there's no sort of ability for the Chinese singular government to sort of respond to it, to say no and to sort of fight back, because China is in the midst of a long civil war, which was eventually won by the CCP.